Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Peace be upon you and thank you for watching. This will be a brief commentary on Surah Al-Baqarah. Alhamdulillah, we completed a brief commentary on Surah Al-Fatiha in 3 short videos, each one lasting anywhere between 12 to 14 minutes. Surah Al-Baqarah is the longest surah in the Quran, as you all know. So the commentary on Surah Al-Baqarah will probably take multiple videos. But the goal is not to comment on each verse, because then the project will be extremely long. But the goal of these videos is to just give an overview of the surah and to talk about the main theme of the surah, the main trajectory within the surah, and to try to link between the different parts of the surah. This way we can have a better understanding of the message that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants us to understand from the surah. So please refer to the videos on Surah Al-Fatiha for more details on that surah, which is the most important surah in the Quran, Surah Al-Fatiha. Today we talk about Surah Al-Baqarah, which is also one of the greatest surahs of the Quran. It is described by the Prophet ﷺ to be Sanam al-Quran, which means the peak of the Quran. It is also a surah that the Prophet ﷺ indicated that it will intercede for the servant of Allah who memorizes it and acts by it. Ashab Surah Al-Baqarah. Even the Prophet ﷺ in his battles, when the battle used to be quite intense and some people would retreat, he would call specifically on those people who know, understand and memorize Surah Al-Baqarah. Not everybody is able to memorize, but at least understand the meanings and act by them. That's what is required from us as a Muslim. As for memorization, the ability to memorize differs from one person to the other. But to understand and to act, that's an obligation on every Muslim. He used to call in these battles, when people retreated and fled, he would say, Ya Ashab Surah Al-Baqarah, all those people who know Surah Al-Baqarah, come back. So Surah Al-Baqarah has a great status. And Prophet ﷺ one time asked a few Sahaba who were going out on an expedition what they memorized from the Quran. And each one told the Prophet ﷺ what he memorized, until one of them came forward and says, I memorized this and this and Surah Al-Baqarah. He says, do you actually memorize Surah Al-Baqarah? He says, yes. He says, you will be the leader of that expedition, and so on. Surah Al-Fatiha had ended with Ihdina as-Sirat al-Mustaqim, guide us to the straight path. And it ended by the classification of the people into 3 different kinds. The people who are blessed by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala because they accepted the truth and they acted upon it. And then there's a second class of people who have incurred the wrath of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala because they understood the truth and went against it. And then the third class of people are those people who failed the way of the path of the truth. They failed to find that path because of their negligence and lack of effort in trying to find their goal in this life. So Ihdina as-Sirat al-Mustaqim ends Surah Al-Fatiha. Then Surah Al-Baqarah starts ذلك الكتاب لا ريب فيه هدى للمتقين, which indicates that if you want to Ihdina as-Sirat al-Mustaqim, you want Allah to guide you to the straight path, here is the guide. This book is your guide to the straight path. ذلك الكتاب لا ريب فيه. No doubt, there is no doubt in it. It is by no doubt the guide to the straight path. That is one of the links between Surah Al-Baqarah and Surah Al-Fatiha. Also, Allah classified the people at the end of Surah Al-Fatiha, as we mentioned earlier. And this is how Surah Al-Baqarah also started. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talked about this book, that it shows the way to the straight path. It shows the way of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But people, again, have varied in their attitudes towards this book. There are the believers, الَّذِينَ يُؤْمِنُونَ بِالْغَيْبِ وَيُقِيمُونَ الصَّلَاةِ, and Allah described their features in 5 verses. And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talked about the other class of people who totally went against this guidance from Allah. إن الذين كفروا سواء عليهم. The kuffar, the people who reject the truth from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Allah described their qualities in 2 verses. سواء عليهم أأنذرتهم أم لم تنذرهم لا يؤمنون. And then the third class of people, those people who pretended on the outside to believe in Allah and to follow the truth, but on the inside they were totally against it. They conspired against the religion of Allah and its people, and those are the hypocrites. So as you see, the beginning of Surah Al-Baqarah also classified the people into according to their attitude with regards to belief and embracing this book, into the believers, the kuffar, the people, the non-believers or the unbelievers, and the hypocrites. And it went from the highest, which are the believers, the highest ranking, to the lower, to the low ranking, who are the kuffar, to the lowest ranking, who are the hypocrites, because the hypocrites are the lowest of all those, because they not only disbelieved and rejected the truth from Allah, but they added to that deception, the attitude of deception and conspiracy against the religion of Allah and its people. That's why Allah in Surah An-Nisa says, إِنَّ الْمُنَافِقِينَ فِي الدَّرْكِ الْأَسْفَلِ مِنَ النَّارِ وَلَن تَجِدَ لَهُمْ نَصِيرًا. The hypocrites are at the lowest level in the fire of hell, and they will find no helper. Surah Al-Baqarah from beginning to end, if you want to analyze the surah and look and have an overview of the surah, you will find that it basically talks about the Sirat al-Mustaqim that Surah Al-Fatiha ended with. Ihdina as-Sirat al-Mustaqim. Allah details and expounds on the features of this Sirat al-Mustaqim and the duties that are incumbent upon those people who want to follow the Sirat al-Mustaqim, the straight path. It's all detailed in Surah Al-Baqarah. You will find in Surah Al-Baqarah the articles of faith, the belief in Allah, الذين يؤمنون بالغيب ويقيمون الصلاة. Also, آمن الرسول بما أنزل إليه من ربه والمؤمنون كل آمن بالله وملائكته وكتبه ورسله ليس البر أن تولوا وجوهكم قبل المشرق والمغرب ولكن البر من آمن بالله آمن بالله واليوم الآخر والملائكة والكتاب والنبيين. You will find the articles of faith, believe in Allah, believe in the angels, the books, the messengers mentioned. That's a major component of following the Sirat al-Mustaqim. But also in Surah Al-Baqarah you find the details, the practical application that is incumbent upon those people who are on the straight path. You will find the details of the rulings pertaining to fasting. كتب عليكم الصيام كما كتب على الذين من قبلكم. You'll find the details with regards to family law in Surah Al-Baqarah, marriage and divorce, and also the other breastfeeding and the rights of the women, the rights of the children, the rights of the husband. All this is mentioned. Also, you will find the details of business transactions. At the end of Surah Al-Baqarah, you'll find a long verse talking about debt. You'll find the verses talking about riba, loan. You'll find the verses talking about nafaqah, spending for the sake of Allah. You'll find the verses that talk about the penal code, the criminal code as well. Al-Qisas, كتب عليكم القصاص في القتلى الحر بالحر. You'll find that in Surah Al-Baqarah. You'll find the details of fasting. كتب عليكم الصيام كما كتب على الذين من قبلكم. You'll find the details of Hajj. وأتموا الحج والعمرة لله. You find the details of Islam contained within Surah Al-Baqarah. The details of Iman, Arkan al-Iman, are in Surah Al-Baqarah. Arkan al-Islam are in Surah Al-Baqarah. Even the Ihsan, you'll find it in Surah Al-Baqarah. People who worship Allah as if they see Him at the end of Surah Al-Baqarah. وَإِن تُبْدُوا مَا فِي أَنفُسِكُمْ أَوْ تُخْفُوهُ يُحَاسِبْكُم بِهِ اللَّهُ. This is a very high level of observance of the watchfulness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That Allah in the end of the surah says to the companions, whether you reveal what is in your hearts or you conceal it, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will hold you accountable on that. And that was initially. This ruling was only initial to see how much obedience to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala they will display, and whether or not they will say, we accept your ruling we accept your injunctions, O Allah, or are we going to against this? Are we going to go against that? وَقَالُوا سَمِعْنَا وَأَطَعْنَا. Say, O Allah, we hear your words, we hear your injunctions, we accept your obligation upon us, and we will follow. That is when they did that and showed Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that they are ready to obey Him, even in the most hidden details of what happens within their hearts and minds. That is when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made it easy for believers in general, for them and for believers in general. He says, لا يكلف الله نفسا إلا وسعها. What you cannot control, from whatever happens in your heart, in your soul, in your mind, what you cannot control, what you don't have control of, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will not hold you accountable for, but otherwise He would hold you accountable for things that you have control over. So the surah talks about as-sirat al-mustaqim in all detail, and the attitudes of the different kinds of people towards it, the believers, the unbelievers, and the hypocrites. And also it gives you examples of different attitudes towards the Sirat al-Mustaqim and the injunctions of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and the commandments of Allah. It talks about the Israelites and how they rebelled against Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala went against His covenant and His commandments in all detail. You'll find the stories of Bani Israel taking a major part of Surah Al-Baqarah. You will find, on the other hand, the story of Adam alayhi salam, who obeyed Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but he fell into one single shortcoming and one single sin, and he repented back to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and Allah accepted his repentance. And then you find the story of Ibrahim alayhi salam in Surah Al-Baqarah, the one who fulfilled all the commandments of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So you see the story of the one who fulfilled all the commandments of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and followed the Sirat al-Mustaqim without the slightest deviation. Ibrahim alayhi salam, وَإِذِ ابْتَلَى إِبْرَاهِيمَ رَبُّهُ بِكَلِمَاتٍ فَأَتَمَّهُنْ. He has perfected the commandments. He has perfected his obedience to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. While you find the Adam alayhi salam, who also obeyed Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but when he fell into sin, he repented back to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and then resumed the path towards Allah, towards the pleasure of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And then you find the third class of the third example, the example of continuous rebellion against Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and His commandment, as exemplified in the story of the Israelites who rejected the covenant of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in this surah, as the surah shows us, and rebelled against Him and committed all sorts of sin and rejection towards Allah, as we will talk in detail in some other videos. So it gives us those examples as well. Inshallah, we will continue the overview of Surah Al-Baqarah in the next video, because I'm trying to make sure that the videos do not extend beyond maybe 13 to 14 minutes. Thank you very much for watching.